So you're playing Genshin, you do a 10 pull or a single pull if you're super lucky, and you get 5-star Lauma. Now, what do you get with Lauma besides the newest 5-star that actually introduces a kind of new reaction, or at least a buffed reaction to Genshin? Well, Lauma is a catalyst building Dendro user who is secretly a deer, and in this video we are going to look at how to use Lauma. Now, just like Inefa did with Electro Charge bringing Lunar Charged, Lauma allows for Lunar Bloom, which is a buffed reaction to kind of revamp, quote unquote revamp, the bloom reactions, being Bloom, Burgeon, Hyper Bloom, even Nilou's Bountiful Core. So real quick, we're going to talk about Lunar Bloom. Now, Lauma inherently allows for Lunar Bloom to exist as long as she's in the party. You don't have to do anything special. As long as she's in the party, she will allow for Lunar Bloom to exist. This is just a ramped up version of Bloom. It is going to do more damage. Now, Inefa allowed for Electro Charge to crit with Lunar Charge. Lauma allows for the same thing. Hyper Bloom, Bountiful Core, regular Bloom's Burgeon, they could not crit. You can make them crit with C2 Nahida. Lauma's kit inherently allows you to do that with one of her passives, as you can see here. It is a set crit rate and crit damage, but now they can crit. So you can have Blooms hitting like 120k, which is crazy just by having Lauma in the party. So one of her passives turns Bloom reactions into Lunar Bloom, the other one allows them to crit. Her third passive is just going to give a buff to kind of her skill, and the cooldown of her charge attack is going to be reduced based on her elemental mastery. So this is the only one that kind of affects her kit directly. The other two just affect the reaction. So now that all of that's out of the way, we've talked about Lunar Bloom, let's talk about her actual kit. So Lauma's normal attacks, they're normal, they do danger damage. She does have two versions of her charge attack. The first one turns her into her secret deer form, but it does use up stamina, she does move faster. It does have like an internal cooldown though, so once you've used that, then you can actually do her other charge attack, which actually does Dendro damage, where she sends a little deer out to hit the enemy. Now her skill is going to have a tap and a hold. They both put up a similar effect where they're going to do like Dendro damage even if she's off the field, with this deer jumping on, hitting, and going off. But her hold is going to be the one that you're actually going to be using more. Her hold, though, you have to have at least one Verdant Dew, which is going to be the three things on the side over here. You get these by causing blooms. Anybody can cause a bloom, anybody can create a bloom. Whenever you create blooms, you will get a Verdant Dew. Whenever you hold her skill, she will consume all of these, and it is going to do an instance of Dendro damage and another instance of AoE Dendro damage that is considered Lunar Bloom damage. Every one of these that is consumed is going to give her a stack of a Moon Song, which is going to help her with her burst. Also, which this is another thing that's crazy, when her elemental skill or attacks from her skill hit an opponent, the opponent's Dendro and Hydra resistance is shredded a little bit. So that is really good for her. That means that there is now another way to shred enemies of Dendro resistance alongside something like Deepwood's Memory, Nilou C2, things like that. So we're going to be using her hold skill more than anything to get the Moon Song, the stacks of Moon Song. Now Lauma's burst is going to be something that we're going to be using a lot. Whenever she uses her burst, she's going to gain what are called Pale Hem stacks. She will gain 18 of these stacks upon using her burst. Now, if you have Moonsong stacks, or if you gain Moonsong stacks within a certain amount of time after using her burst, she will consume them and gain 6 stacks of Pale Song for every Moonsong stack. So you can get up to 36 total. 18 from using the burst, 18 from the Moonsong stacks. Now, these stacks are going to be consumed when a party member deals Bloom, Hyper Bloom, Burgeon, or Lunar Bloom damage. Again, this does count Bountiful Core with Nilou's kit. Now, whenever you cause a Bloom reaction, Bloom, Hyper Bloom, Burgeon, Bountiful Core, it is going to consume one of these stacks whenever it hits an enemy. This is going to greatly increase the amount of damage that these Bloom reactions are doing to the enemy. So you need to kind of make sure that you are using her hold skill and her burst in conjunction to get the 36 stacks, essentially giving you 36 instances of increased damage, Bloom damage. That is where her true utility in her kit is going to come from. So we have her inherently with her burst, increasing the amount of damage that these Bloom reactions do, allowing them to crit is also phenomenal, and turning them into Lunar Blooms are also phenomenal. So this is giving a massive buff over to Bloom, Bountiful Core, Burgeon, and Hyper Bloom. So this is a really, really good character for those teams. So essentially you want to be using her burst and her hold skill, or her hold skill and then her burst with the full verdant stacks to get all 36 instances. Now, because Lauma is really reliant on her burst, we need to make sure that we have enough energy recharge on her to use her burst every rotation. So as we look at these artifacts on this trial Lauma, you're going to notice that they are using the Silken Moon Serenade set, which is going to be great. It's going to give energy recharge on the 2-piece, the 4-piece. It's going to be giving a boost to elemental mastery to the team, and all of this kind of stuff. It has a lot to do with the lunar blooms, right? That is what this set does. But you're going to notice that the main stat on the Sands is actually going to be an ER, and then elemental mastery and elemental mastery with the other two. Now, because of how her kit works with one of her other things, raising the moon sign of the team, you're going to be getting a ton of elemental mastery to your team through this set. So you can run an ER Sands and then elemental mastery for the other two. Or if you're going to be running like an ER weapon, then you can have elemental mastery on the main stat of your artifact. Speaking of weapons, her signatures, obviously her best is going to give a ton of elemental mastery, and then it's going to do a lot of things with Lunar Bloom as well in the passive. But if you don't have her signature, you do have a couple of different options. You do have this weapon, the Aetherlight Spindalute, which is going to be from this current event that's about to end. This is going to give energy recharge as the main stat, so you can actually afford to have an EM Sands on the artifacts, but then it's also going to give you elemental mastery in the passive. Then at R5, it's going to give you another 200 elemental mastery. So this event weapon is actually phenomenal for her. And then of course you do have other EM main stat weapons being like Nahida signature. You can use Sit Lollies, but you can't use the rest of the passive on that one, or even something like Sackfrax. So Lauma is very, very good at giving a buff to all of these bloom reactions. And she is buffing it to the point where even this non-C6 Kuki Shinobu with only like 700 EM after it's all said and done with like Nahida's burst and everything like that is still hitting close to 30k or even over 30k on the Hyper Bloom, which is crazy because typically that is where you start getting into like the 900 elemental mastery with Kuki. So imagine having a full EM built Kuki Shinobu getting well over into the 1000 of elemental mastery, hitting lunar blooms. You're going to be doing a ton of damage with this. So that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Kuki has green hair, I have green hair, and I'll see you in the next one.